Hi, I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett. Welcome to my channel. And today we're talking about the full moon, the Virgo total lunar eclipse with my colleague, friend, and fellow astrologer, Justin Crockett Elsie.
Hey
Welcome,
Liz,
Justin. How you doing?
good. Thank you. Thank you. I'm excited to talk about the lunar eclipse.
I know we're in eclipse season again and
Yeah,
all this other stuff.
this is a crazy month.
So much going on and planet
Yes.
stationing. And so to get a hold of Justin, his website is justincrockettelsey.com and my website is alightpath.com, and we enjoy hearing from you. We're talking about the full moon forecast for Virgo. Virgo is a mutable sign. It brings things to a close and completion, tying up loose ends. It's an earth sign, time to be grounded. It's ruled by the planet Mercury, and full moons are about culmination and preparing to move forward and releasing and let go. And Virgo is about analysis, meditation, health. And Pisces is about compassion. Anything you'd like to add, Justin? Okay, so the Virgo total lunar eclipse at 23 Virgo and 56 minutes happens on March 13th on the Pacific coast of the United States, and on the 14th on the East Coast and in Greenwich time, Universal time. So this is also called an eagle moon. And here on the 13th, I have the times. Pacific Daylight Time is 11:54 p.m. and on March 14th at 2:54 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and the sun and moon are opposite in a full moon. And Justin's going to tell us about the Nakshatras.
Yes, thank you, Liz. So, one of the things I forgot to mention when we were just going through that slide on Virgo, there was a couple of things I would definitely add with that is that also this whole Virgo energy that we're in for the full year, full year. Virgo is also intellectual. There's a lot of mind, thinking, and also a time of purging. So with the Nakshatras, one of the things I love about these two lunar mansions, the one for the sun, which is what we're looking at here, and then the one for the moon, is that a lot of the themes we see here will play out when we talk about, again, the Sabian symbols. So the lunar mansion, which this sun is in for this full moon, is in a nakshatra. It's called Purva Bhadrapada, and it's in the third pada. There's four padas to a lunar mansion or nakshatra, and the third pada, which this is in, is ruled by air, and then
Whoops, Justin's lost his connection a little bit, but hopefully he comes right back because I can't tell you about the Nakshatras, but he will. So hoping he comes right back. And some other things about Virgo, it's and the South Node is in Virgo, so it's a really good time to pay attention and make um, choices in your health. It's like good choices, whether it's to drink more water or to exercise more, meditate, because the opposite, the North Node is in Pisces, so that's about meditation and contemplation. Well, I wonder if Justin's going to come back. Here he comes.
sorry
I
about that. Mercury's not retrograde yet, but we're having little things there. So if we could go back, just okay, yeah, we're here, right here with the Purva Bhadrapada. It's ruled by Gemini, and so this particular uh, um, constellation, Polaris is here, and so it's called the scorching pair because it's two stars here. And the keyword theme is communications. The ruling planet is Jupiter, and the ruling deity is Aja Ekapada, the fire serpent. And the symbol is crossed swords or two faces because it's about communications and looking at things from two different points of view. So there's an aspect of again, communications and thinking associated with this. The basis above is creatures to be healed, and the basis below, as above below, is healing therapies. So this is the sun. So there is this thing about communications, and we'll see that in when we talk about the Sabian symbols. So this is what the sun is in. The moon, Chandra, is in a nakshatra called Uttara Falguni, and it's in the first pada. And so this pada is ruled by fire. The first pada is always ruled by fire. In this particular case, it's ruled by Sagittarius. That's why the keyword theme is ethical. This is the ruling planet is the sun here, and the ruling deity is Aryaman, which is one of the Vedic solar deities. And this deity is related to, it's called the star of patronage or relationships. So it's very clear about contracts, relationships, and abundance is through family relationships. And I use that in quotes, family relationships. And the basis below is abundance through partners. So this can be your partner in life, love partner, or even business partners. And the symbol is 4 legs of a couch. So again, we see with these 2 lunar mansions with the sun and moon, there's this these themes around communications and relationships, and we will see those come out a little bit when we look at the Sabian symbols. Any thoughts or comments? Sorry about my internet there for a second. Any thoughts or comments, Liz?
No, I just always find it so interesting how, this adds another layer to what we're talking about for the full moon. I really enjoy that.
Awesome.
Thanks for sharing.
Yes, you're welcome.
So here's the astrology chart for the Virgo full moon, and the ascendant is at 16 degrees Scorpio, circled in orange. The mid heaven is 1 degree Virgo, and that's circled in green. And then the sun is at 23 degrees Pisces, and that's circled in blue. And then the moon is 23 Virgo, and that's circled in purple. And then the corresponding planets that rule that. So this chart ruler is Mars as the traditional ruler and Pluto as the modern ruler. And they have an orange arrow to them. And they're pretty close to being opposite themselves. So it's almost like they're having a full moon too.
Right.
Or full phase. And then Virgo is ruled by Mercury, and there's a green arrow pointing to that. And the sun in Pisces is ruled by Neptune and Jupiter. Jupiter is the traditional ruler, and Neptune is the modern ruler. And then the moon is ruled by Mercury as well as the midheaven. So Mercury's pretty active in this chart. Anything you'd like to add?
No, I think you got it covered.
And then you want to talk about this slide, please?
Sure. So we always look at really important aspects here in the show. And so we're starting out with conjunctions. And Lynn likes to say these are sign parties here. So, we see this first one with Pluto in Aquarius conjunct Pallas, Athena in Aquarius. And so this is, again, because Aquarius, and I'm just going to kind of give you my take on this, Liz, a little bit. This can, even if it's in the 3rd house in this particular, the West Coast, it does have a communications aspect to it, because Aquarius rules the 11th house, which is group structure and communications. And I think this is, again, to a larger view about the patterns in communications right now, and social media and communications and culture, because it's Aquarius. And then the other, and a couple of the other patterns, so that's an Aquarius. And we have the Pisces one with the Sun Saturn conjunction with the North Node. And I always, Sun Saturn can be kind of like bull in the china shop. It's like, whatever sign it's in, that's what the bull is here. And we're still in these degrees of Pisces, a little bit of delusion going on, and you're not going to be able to change people's mind because of the Sun Saturn conjunction and Pisces. Forget it. They're going to believe what they want to believe, and that's not going to change. And then we've got then of course the Aries party here with Mercury and Venus, and then Chiron and Eris. That's a big one there, and we're going to talk a little bit about that a little bit later here. Any comments? What you think?
Well, it's like the planets have been kind of piling up, so to speak, or really getting close to each other, even though there's a few that aren't right there, but there's a lot of energy, in 3 signs basically. So
Right, right.
that's pretty interesting. It's like the last 2 signs and the first sign of the zodiac. So that it's like kind of trying to finish up some cycles and then start to begin some new cycles.
Right, right, absolutely.
So we're going to talk about the Sabian symbols. They were channeled in 1925 by medium Elsie Wheeler, who channeled them with Mark Edmund Jones, who was an astrologer and an occultist also. And then he wrote books on them, and other people have written books on them also. And we're going to start with the Sabian symbol for the ascendant at 16 degrees Scorpio. And we do 3 Sabian symbols, the one before the where we're at and then where we're headed. So it's like what led up, where we're at now, and then what's next. So want to start, Justin, please?
Sure. So the on the Sabian symbol for the ascendant here, we start with the Scorpio 15, what's coming into it, which is children playing around 5 mounds of sand. And the keynote here is early steps in development of a mind, seeking to be attuned to a higher level of human evolution. And so we got the concept here of future oriented growth.
And then where we're at now with Scorpio 16, a girl's face breaking into a smile, the fervent reaching out on the part of the young of heart to new experiences. And the key word is warmth of feeling.
And then where we're going to with this ascendant, Scorpio 17 degrees, is a woman fecundated by her own spirit, is great with child. And the keynote here is a total reliance upon the dictates of the God within. And the key phrase is the transpersonal way.
Well, and that's interesting because I liked how the first one was talking about the mind, because Jupiter is in Gemini, so that's about the mind, and then I always think of Aquarius as like the higher mind, so to speak. So what would you, with these 3 kind of, what would be a few words that you could sum this up with, do you think?
Well, I think the thing about how we're dealing with growth and our forced growth right now around certain things and how we're dealing with it um, is kind of what this ascendant is. It's moving forward. That's the ascendant's always how we're moving forward into the process or into the world. I think we're all going through some level of growth and change, and it's how we are dealing with it spiritually and looking at these new experiences.
Thank you. So now we're going to go on to the Sabian symbol for the midheaven at 1 degree Virgo. So leading up to this, we start with Leo 30, an unsealed letter. The keynote is the realization by the individual that all thoughts and all messages are inevitably to be shared with all men. And the key word here is communication and sharing.
There's that communication from the
Mhm.
savings or from the chakras. And then the Virgo 1 degree, which I love this degree always because this is about total objectivity here. And so in a portrait, the significant features of a man's head are artistically emphasized. The keynote is the capacity to picture oneself clearly, the salient features and the overall meaning of any life situation. And so what it really is it's this really extreme discernment or discrimination or objectivity.
And then Virgo 2, a large white cross dominates the landscape. And the keynote is the wisdom and compassion which only the experience of suffering and isolation can bring. And the key word is a liberating ordeal. Wow, that's amazing. And here again, communication. So it's mind and how we communicate that's been brought up several times already. And then discernment too. Do you want to sum these up
Yeah,
any?
yeah, to me, okay, so this is the midheaven, which is what our higher goal is, right, to be here, what we're working towards. I feel this is really about, I think, about having um looking at how we're thinking and having clear discernment and thinking about our current environment and everything that's going on. And, one of the things about, I think the communications is what we're dealing with here, and we're learning with discernment and clearly, factual discerning about things. And then, of course, though, Virgo too is always about that. Sometimes if Virgo goes too extreme, it becomes like it can be negative or really kind of really so a dose of what reality is that it becomes like a liberating ordeal. And so I think that everybody's going to go through some sense of liberating ordeal at this particular period of time, but it's about having that clear thinking instead of the Pisces escapism, and having that clear discernment mentally around our communications and thinking. And that's the way I see this.
Well, I think that's great, and I agree. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Sabian symbol for the sun is 23 Pisces, and I'll let you start with this one.
Yeah, so the energy that's coming in on this, the Pisces 22 degrees, is a prophet carrying tablets of the new law, is walking down the slopes of Mount Sinai. So the keynote here is the need to bring down to a level of everyday existence the clear realizations made manifest in great experience. And so really what we're talking about is the experiences that we have, that we need to kind of bring them down to real world situation. And the key word here is mandate.
And then Pisces 23, a materializing medium gives a seance. And the keynote, the ability to give one's own vital energy to substantiate one's conscious ideals or unconscious desires. And the key word is substantiation.
And then what we're moving towards Pisces 24 degrees is on a small island surrounded by the vast expanse of the sea. People are seen living in close interaction. And the key note here is the need to consciously accept one's own personal limitations in order to concentrate one's energies and live a centered and fulfilled life. And so here we have is centralization.
So how would you summarize these three?
Well, I'll make a note about if people are wondering about the Pisces 23 degrees, because I'm very familiar with this one. Um, you know, in media in seances, what happens is that spirit uses the person's own energy in order to manifest physical mediumship, like things, ports happening or the table tipping or rocking. This is all where a materializing medium or physical medium is actually part of their own energy or ectoplasm is used to create something. And that's what we're talking about here with that 23 degrees, the ability to give one's own vital energy to substantiate one's ideals or beliefs. And I think, this is something about focus, which we're going to talk about here a little bit later with the finger of God. And I was thinking of that, our discussion about that, when it was about, consciously accepting our own limitations and concentrating our energies. So I think this is really about coming back around to what our values are, what do we want to give our energy to, and knowing where our limitations are at, and really focusing more on one particular point or ideal. What do you think?
Oh, I would agree with all that, and I think that's wonderful. And just being kind of open and maybe do a little bit of meditation to see, that you might come up with some new focuses, I would say.
Right. And something else I want to say about that one at the end about the small island, that one to me also speaks to like those relationships we can't get away from. We live on this, it's about living on a small island with a bunch of people. There's another Sabian symbol that's very similar to this one that talks about the web of relationships. And so there's something here about relationships, that whole concept of living on a small island with a bunch of people. We can't get away from them. So, it's something we got to deal with.
Well, and lots of times, even if you try to move away, you kind of take your problems and issues with you. So it's like moving away from it doesn't really change it. So to face it,
Right.
in my opinion, seems like the answer.
I agree. I agree.
So 23 degrees Virgo moon. And so the degree leading up is Virgo 22, a royal coat of arms enriched with precious stones. And the keynote is the certification of aristocratic status at whatever level nobility expresses itself in cultural eminence. And the key word is nobility.
And then Virgo 23 degrees is a lion tamer displays their skills and character, the need to tame one's vital energies in order to fulfill one's destiny. And so here we have is the keyword here is resoluteness and patience.
And then Virgo 24, Mary and her little lamb. And the keynote is the need to keep vibrant and pure simplicity at the core of one's being as one meets the many tests of existence. And the key word is innocence. Wow, this is kind of interesting. Nobility and patience and innocence. It's like to maintain all those things. What would you sum it up?
Well, you know, the fact that we're talking about a lunar eclipse here and that the sun is shining that energy, you know, we're looking at what we were just talking about a minute ago, which is about understanding our limitations, concentrating our energy, um, and yeah, using our energy towards one specific goals and making sure we know those. I think the moon here, I guess it's a lunar eclipse, so it's asking us, the moon, I mean the earth shadows on the moon, because the earth is actually in the same degree as the moon here. So it's, we're kind of, this is how we may want to, with that thing, look at what we need to pay attention to. That's why I maybe see this, because it is a lunar eclipse. So we may want to pay attention to our resoluteness and patience. Is that positive and healthy? And is our innocence positive and healthy? And how we are, you know, dealing with others that are maybe not our race and class. And paying attention to that, because that comes a little bit of with the nobility thing there a little bit. So I think I like to bring the aspect, it's a lunar eclipse. So there's something to pay attention to about the health of what the moon is pointing out, I think. What do you think?
Yes, and this is a south node eclipse because it matters if it's a south node or a north node. And so being a south node, it's like looking at how we've been doing things and what things are really of no use, and it's time to shed those now.
Uh,
Okay, and out of bounds planets are when they exceed 23 degrees and 27 north or south, and they're out of the bounds of the sun. And so those planets act on their own and kick up their heels and act out of character. The moon will be out of bounds March 6th through the 10th, so before this full moon, and then on the 20th to the 24th, and that's also before the new moon. And then Mars has been out of bounds since January 1st and will continue to be out of bounds until April 7th. So this lunar eclipse has the south node conjunct the moon, and it's opposite the sun. And Justin had mentioned this, that Saturn, Sun, North Node, and Neptune are all conjunct together. So it's like there's quite a few characters
uh-huh.
participating in this lunar eclipse. Do you want to say anything more about this?
um, well, I think it's important we maybe mention about maybe what the way we may see oppositions. Um, and couple of keywords I like in dealing with oppositions, it's like a yin yang, or a reflection of two things reflecting on one another. Opposites attract. So examples of how oppositions play out, I think I always like to look at oppositions with transiting Mars with your natal Mars. You're not going to go anywhere because it's just kind of stationary, right? Oppositions can be stationary. So I think it's interesting that we've got I'll just go with the Saturn and Moon opposition. That can bring in sort of a depth of insight, emotional and intuitive insight. That's actually an aspect in a lot of mediumships and intuitive charts is Moon Saturn aspect. So I think this gives us helps with discernment, having the Saturn Moon opposition. What do you think about, how do you see oppositions?
Well, that they can see each other. So there's an awareness that's happening, and I believe that it's like an opposition could be two different points of view, and if each person shares their point of view and they just shift a little bit or a tiny bit, it's like then it's informed each other, and before maybe they didn't have their ears open or they didn't really want to hear it, and it just helps shift that energy and
Right,
integrate. It doesn't mean that you change their mind completely or change them, but
right.
just that now they have a more full awareness of everything.
That sounds like a good spiel for synastry of charts, relationships, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, we're gonna have a relationship show, not too long in the future, so that'll be something for our audience to look forward to, and so we'll be talking about that. Okay, so here we have the aspects to the moon, and we were just talking about the oppositions. Is there anything more that you want to talk about those oppositions?
no, I don't
Okay.
have it.
And the nodes are always opposite each other. The nodes of the moon are always opposite each other. So then we have a couple of trines that moon and south node are trine to Pluto and trine to Uranus. And it would almost make a grand trine, but it's, pretty wide aspect to do that. So, um, but that they're communicating, and that's with the two of the outer planets, Uranus and Neptune. So there's, change and digging deep to the foundation. It's not just like, let's just paint a new color of paint. It's like, let's, you know, remodel and maybe tear it down to the foundation or even maybe below the foundation, so to speak.
I'm sorry,
What would
which two planets were you talking about?
Pluto and Uranus,
Uranus. Okay, yeah, cool. Yeah,
even
I
though the
agree.
moon's an emotional nature, but
Yeah.
and you can add to that if you like.
Uh, no, I think I'll wait till the next two slides because I think this is where we really kind of on the next couple of slides get into deeper about the meaning of these trines. Um, yeah,
And then we have a quincunx from the moon and the south node to Chiron and Eris, but we're going to talk about that shortly, unless you want to talk about something about it
no,
before.
no, no.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about it on this one because we have what's called a finger of God or a yod, and it's a focused energy of two planets that are sextile to each other that are 60 degrees away, and I always think of it as a divining rod, and those planets are holding those ends, and then they're focusing their energy onto Chiron and Eris. Um, and so we get the focused of energy and the yod, and so this Chiron's about it's the wounded healer, but it's the teacher, and Eris. Okay, my mic muted for some reason.
That's okay.
Talk now.
Yeah, no problem. Well, I like this. I love how you use the term divining rod. I thought that was really a good way to think about this. And I think when we look at the base of the 2 points on the rod, the moon and Vesta represents the hearth or the collective there a little bit. I love that there's something about our emotions, that discernment of emotions and intuitiveness about what's going on with Vesta in Scorpio, the collective, and it's focusing on the wound, right? The Chiron wound, and then of course Eris there, which is also conflict or tension. I think this is a real good point of energy. It's giving us what it's basically doing. I think right now is giving everybody sort of this more focused energy towards conflict in some way, but at the same time, how we use this towards seeing that conflict, seeing what's going on, and how we respond to that and use that, I think is what's important. You can use the focus of energy towards positive or not something that's positive.
Well, and it's interesting that Eris is conjunct Chiron because she was the goddess of discord because she felt she was treated unfairly and wanted equality. And Chiron's about the wound. So I think that through this yod that we can work on our wounds.
Yeah, and I think this is sort of indicative of women's issues right now too, as you're pointing that out. With the moon there and Vesta, and then of course with Eris with Chiron. I think this is highlighting some of the bigger issues right now in society, especially around women's issues.
Yeah, so we'll have to see how that all goes.
Hmm.
Okay, and then now we have a triangle of potential and completion, the point of Thales. And we're going to start with the opposition, and that's awareness. So we have, the moon in the south node opposite Saturn, Sun, north node, and Neptune. So, becoming aware of the energies of each other, because Saturn kind of wants to lock things down, could even make that our sun dim because it's like it almost can be a depressive effect at times. I don't know why my mic keeps muting, but anyway, it's never done that before. So,
Oh,
um, it's like it's informing that, and it's all about Pisces is about the emotion, but Virgo is like the discernment, and it's like you know,
right.
working on finding that. What would you say?
No, I agree with you with the opposition there. And then of course the trine, which is about growth and expansion and the energy that we can use towards growth, and so it's an easy flow of energy with two Earth, the moon and Uranus here, which is about change right now.
Yeah, so through our change, we're gonna grow.
Yeah,
And I know I've been going through a lot of change. And then
right.
we have the last part is the sextile, and that's the production and the creativity part that goes back to where we started with Saturn, Sun, North Node, and Neptune. So, it's to me, it's almost like creating a new dream or a new vision, a new project of some kind. What would you think?
No, I love that, and I loved how when we were talking offline earlier, you like it's a completion of a circuit, because that's really what this is. It's actually when it was first came up with in early astrology. It's a geometrically a right angle, and then that was a theorem, which was that point A, B, and C form a completion of a circuit, and I love how you say a circuit, but it's a completion of a particular process, cycle, or concept, whatever you want to say. So that's why we're looking at it starts with the opposition, and then you look at the trine, the sextile, and it comes back around to what it was. So it's whether you want to say it's like a story beginning to end, or a process of here's what you're trying to accomplish, here's what you got going on, and here's the outcome or the production of what you're doing. So I love what you like said, your concept of completion of the circuit, and that's what really the point of Thales is. It's a completion of these three aspects together as a right angle.
Well, and it's like we've been talking about all these different basic triangles. We have a grand trine, then we have a point of Thales, and then we have um, a finger of God. They're all different types of triangles.
Yeah.
So, and these are other aspects that are in this full moon lunar eclipse chart. We have a mini grand trine, or often referred to as a talent trine. We have a grand water trine, and then another trine. So go ahead and jump in wherever you'd like, Justin.
Well, I was jumping to the grand trine first. I think the Vesta trining the sun and Saturn with Mars. I think anytime you got Saturn trining Mars, and again, I know I brought this up on other shows that we got to always pay attention to Saturn Mars aspects. They're they're so powerful, and so I think this is a super powerful emotional aspect and getting something going or getting something done. So again, back to that Sabian symbol of substantiation right now and resoluteness and patience. I think this really helps us with that, having the Saturn trining Mars, and then of course Investa. So if you really wanted to get something done now, you could probably definitely break it through and get it done emotionally.
Right, because Vesta is about that home and hearth, and Mars is ruling that Vesta, and then Mars is in Cancer, so the moon is ruling that Mars, and then
Yeah.
Saturn's in Pisces, and the sun in Pisces. It's just a very interesting water trine. So it's like, don't get stuck in your emotions, work through them, is what I would say.
Yeah, I agree.
And then the mini grand trine is between Juno, which is about relationships, trine Neptune, and sextile Pluto. So, the two outer planets with Juno, it's like our relationships are being transformed on a deep level, but then we're also coming up with new ways that we are in relationship with
Yeah.
groups. I mean, it could be coworkers, it can be in a love relationship. I mean, it's all different kinds of
Yeah.
ways, and how people jobs are changing all the time. So is there anything you'd like to say about that?
No, I think the key word here is relationship. Like you said, it's a change of relationships. Pluto, Juno, Neptune. Neptune represents the collective. Juno is marriage or relationship, and then Pluto is like, well, we're going to just change it all. So I think this is, and this leads to some other things which you're going to hear. I know, Liz, you talk about, but Neptune, as it moves into to Aries, is always about change of power structures, and I think this is just a lead in, giving us saying, hey, power structures and relationships around the world are going to change, and that's really what it's a change of relationships at this particular period of time.
On so many levels. And then we have
Yeah.
Jupiter trine Pallas Athena, and Jupiter's in Gemini and Pallas Athena's in Aquarius. So, to me, that Jupiter has like been bringing in all this information. I mean, I'm kind of on information overload, and Mercury hasn't even gone retrograde yet, but
Yeah. Yeah.
and then Pallas Athena, wisdom and strategy. It's like it feels like the wisdom and strategy is like shifting and changing because each piece of information changes what the strategy should be.
Right.
So, do you have anything more to say about these?
Well, no, I think that's again why we're, you mentioned we're being inundated, and I think we're seeing, specifically in the United States, sort of this chaos, and just there's so much happening every minute, we can't even keep track of all of it. And I think that's part of what we just went through with the Jupiter trining Neptune, and now it's trining Pallas right next to it. So um, you know, it'll continue for a little bit.
Exactly, because we're in the eclipses and so much happening. I would say March is probably the most powerful month astrologically this year. I mean, there's still many things that are happening, but just in a couple weeks, that Neptune moves into Aries. So we're really on that.
Right.
With the solar eclipse, it happens like the day after. So on here, I put the last eclipse that we had in Virgo, and that was in 2006, which was the closest degree of what it is going to be on the 13th and 14th. So the lunar eclipse, and it was a south node eclipse also. So it's very possible that whatever might have been going on in your life at that time, that there's a reverberation or a review or some of the same themes that are happening on a different level this time around. Do you ever find that that happens, Justin?
Oh, absolutely. Definitely.
And then I just wanted to mention the one that happened in September 22nd of 2006. It was a partial and an annular eclipse, so that means the moon was farthest from Earth, and it was just partial. And the annular is a rare type of eclipse. It was a solar eclipse also with the south node, and that one was at 29 to Virgo. So it's a little bit, they're all pretty close to each other. So
Cool.
you can look back at your journals or just kind of think back to what was going on then and see if that resonates. And then I have a quote here. Nations like stars and are entitled to eclipse. All is well, provided the light returns and the eclipse does not become endless night. Dawn and resurrection are synonymous. The appearance of the light is the same as the survival of the soul, and that's by Victor Hugo. And then the lunar phase family or gestation cycle is the 4 lunar phases: new, first quarter, full, and last quarter. And this is Pessin's work that she has come up with, and it's a lunar cycle. There's one every 29 and a half days. Then with Pessin's cycle, it's one every 9 months. And each moon family can reveal a pattern and an unfolding storyline over time. So the new phase is the beginning, the first quarter is the adjustment, the full phase is the realization of goal, and the third quarter is reevaluation and a decision. Are you going to continue or just finish? So we're at the full moon phase now, and the new phase started September 14th of 2023. The first quarter was June 13th of 2024, and we're almost to the full moon. And then the third quarter will be December 11th, 2025. And sometimes
Hmm.
those are interesting to reflect back of what was going on around those time periods.
Right.
It's a similar thing, or you're working through something. Could have been a project. It could have been a book you wrote, or you're writing it. And now you're getting ready to publish it. And then the yearly lunar phase, the Virgo new moon was on September 2nd of 2024 at 11 degrees Virgo. And then we're having the full moon on March 12th or 13th. So, what did you start maybe around that time and how's it going? So, do you want to sum up the eclipse, the lunar eclipse full moon for people? We've talked about several things, but maybe we can just come back with a couple.
Well, I think back to what we were talking about with the Sabian symbols and the Nakshatras, that this is about relationships right now and communications. I think everything's shown that relationships, communications. When we look at the Nakshatras, the Sabian symbols, and then of course all the aspects. And so it's again knowing our limitations right now, focusing on what's important, self-care, and we can have resoluteness and patience right now, and we can accomplish whatever we want to accomplish, even if everything's crazy around us. We can still accomplish something.
And patience, big time.
Yeah.
And breathe. And, eclipses are the energy. I always feel like the energy is intensified a bit. And Mercury goes retrograde on the 14th. So it's like within hours. And so that's always when a planet stations, the energy is heightened, I always feel. So just take your time and process and sort through the information, sort through the communication. You don't have to answer in 2 seconds. You can take a minute or a day or 3 days, whatever you need, and be good to yourself too. If you're
Yep.
not, who's going to be sometimes?
Exactly. Exactly.
So, Justin and I both do consultations, have newsletters, and have YouTube channels. So we appreciate you subscribing and liking our channels and contacting us for consultations. Upcoming episodes with Justin and I, we do the astrology forecast each month in the full moon, and from time to time, the Chiron asteroid series. There's still a few more episodes of the 2025 astrological highlights. The new show is magical astrology, and a new one's relationship astrology that we're going to do. And I can't remember what we're going to name it, but we thought of something. And then the Astrology Star Sisters have an episode on Chinese astrology, decans using astrology and tarot, dwarf planets, fixed stars, planet stationing, Uranian astrology, and the Venus star point. So come back and enjoy some of those. And then Justin and I will both be on Talk Cosmos on March 30th at 1 p.m. You can watch it live here on my channel or come back and watch it at a later time. And Justin, you can tell us about what you're doing.
Yeah, so I just like people to check out my YouTube channel. And you can also find me on Blue Sky Social or on Instagram under Astrological Yogi.
Thank you. And again, to get a hold of Justin, it's justincrocketlz.com for his website. And my website is alightpath.com. And thank you for coming and watching our show live and at a later date. And thank you, Justin, for joining me today. I so appreciate it. And
Thank you. Appreciate
I
it.
look forward to coming back for more episodes. And I'm going to say goodbye for now. Thanks.